My person for the Renaissance idol was Henry VIII, who was a humanist and King of England. He was born on June 28, 1491 in Greenwich and died on January 28, 1547 in London. He took the throne after his brother Arthur, who was the first in line for the throne, died. Henry VIII's father was Henry VII, who was the previous King of England. He lived from 1466 to 1503. His mother was Elizabeth of York, who was the Queen Consort to Henry VII and lived from 1485 to 1509. Henry VIII had three siblings named Arthur, who lived from 1486 to 1502, Mary, who lived from 1489 to 1541, and Margaret Tudor, who lived from 1496 to 1533. Henry VIII had a total of 6 wives: Catherine of Aragon, who birthed Mary I, who became future queen; Anne Boleyn, who birthed Elizabeth I, who took over as queen; Jane Seymour, who birthed Edwin VI, Henry VIII's successor; Anne of Cleves, Catherine Howard, and Catherine Parr. Henry VIII spoke a multitude of other languages, such as Latin, Spanish, French, and Italian. He played many instruments like the lute, organ, and harpsichord. In addition to this, he made hymns, ballads, and masses. He was taught mathematics and theology. He enjoyed physical activities like wrestling, jousting, hunting, and archery. He had also wrote a book named The Defense of the Seven Sacraments. Before his controversial separation from the church, Henry VIII had a close relationship with the church and Pope Clement VII. When Henry VIII was still married to Catherine of Aragon, his first wife, he and Pope Clement VII got along well, Clement VII even titling him Defender of Faith after he wrote The Defense of the Seven Sacraments. Before he could divorce Catherine of Aragon and marry Anne Boleyn, Henry VIII had to separate himself from the church and be excommunicated by the Pope. The reason behind this being because Pope Clement VII didn't want to incur the wrath of Charles V, King of Spain, so he denied King Henry's request for divorce, which caused Henry VIII to create his own denomination of the Roman Catholic Church. The Reformation was when the Church of England broke away from the Pope and the Roman Catholic Church. After being refused from divorcing his wife, Catherine of Aragon, Henry VIII had Thomas Cranmer, who was the Archbishop of Canterbury, annul the marriage. To reason this to the people, he said the marriage to his brother's widow went against biblical teachings. Once the Reformation actually began, Henry VIII started passing laws and acts like the Act of Supremacy. This act made it so Henry VIII was the head of both the Church of England and its clergy. It also stated that the Parliament wouldn't be able to lift this act later on. The Act of Supremacy also stated that it stood above any and all foreign policies. In addition to the Act of Supremacy, many laws and actions were taken and passed against the Roman Catholic Church and its ideals. Some of these being the shutting down of monasteries, both big and small. Henry VIII could also decide what was and what wasn't heresy, this being punishable by death by burning.
Thomas More, 1478 through 1535. Thomas More was most influenced by his father. His father wanted him to be most successful. Thomas More had 3 other siblings, but they all died really early. His father was a lawyer, then a judge. More's father then sent him to the University of Oxford in London. Later in life, he married John Colt in 1505. She then died a few weeks after marriage. In 1511, he remarried Alison Middleton. More went to the University of Oxford. Then Thomas More decided to study Latin for 2 years. But Thomas More got into the church's teachings, so More left without a degree. So he could join a group called Christian Humanist Circle. Later he quit that and started to create poems and epigrams, which let many careers open to him. From education, More decided to create his famous Utopia. Then the King Henry VIII wanted More to work for him. Then More got into writing, so he decided to create his Utopia. He started in 1516, published 1517. This explained his thinking of the church and the government. The utopia was very successful. He became very popular. And how the self-interest and greed for power and the riches of the government over the church of the people. So the people governed by reason and pagan against the church, which then influenced many writers and people to think the same as him. Now More was well known. King Henry invited More to work for him in 1517. Thomas More didn't accept until 1523 and worked for a counselor. The king got more trustworthy to Thomas More. Then the king promoted him to his secretary. While serving the king had some action with the church. The king was getting a divorce with his wife. Then the church did not like this. They fought back and forth. But the Pope excommunicated him from the church, so then King Henry separated from the church. Thomas More found out what was going on, so he told the Pope the king was doing something bad. So then the Pope excommunicated him from the church because he was trying to get a divorce. The king got all grumpy at Thomas More for backstabbing him. So he decided to throw him in prison, but More tried to escape prison by talking his way out, by questioning him. But then the king did not like how he was getting talked to. So then he got decapitated and died. When he died, he was then canonized as saint.